Hey F1 fans! Alright, this is my second video in the series comparing last week's standings of everyone, this time both in the Drivers' Championship and the Team Championships, to this week's past race, so that everyone can see the movement and any position swaps that people made, and a quick recap of each driver's race. Alright, so let's get started. First, let's do the Drivers' Championship standings. All right, let's start out with the positions, of course. I have the top 13 because there's only 13 drivers with points, so I won't be going into drivers who don't have any points. And of course, we're comparing race 1, which was Bahrain, against the new standings in race 2, Saudi Arabia. Here are the driver positions in the championship after race 1 and now after race 2. All right, let's start taking a look at everyone's race. And let's not forget the points. I guess I'm covering some of the points, yeah, there's ones at the bottom there. Okay, so Max Verstappen. So Max had a whole bunch of stuff happen. He was sick before the race, so he didn't fly in for the first day of race prep and interviewing activities. Then he had transmission issues during qualifying and was out of qualifying. This made him start in 15th place. Of course, did we ever doubt that he would make it up? No, I certainly didn't. He made it all the way back up to second and was definitely on the way to making it up into first, where Sergio Perez was driving. However, he started to experience some noise when he was going fast, and it was possible drivetrain issues, which he was fearing, which was the same thing that put him out of qualifying. So he kind of held back and kept his P2. He expressed that he was not happy, but I think that's just in the sense that, if you're expecting perfection from you and your team and you're shooting for that first spot, anything other than that will be like not happy, but it's still a very good result. At the last minute too, he stole fastest lap from Perez, leaving him in the championship lead in spite of coming P2. Sergio Perez. He lost P1 to Alonso. He qualified P1, which is awesome. Alonso passed him right at the beginning, had a great start. To me, this is just the story of Sergio, although it's a lot less lately, but he'll always have some kind of incident early in the race and then have to fight it all back. But this time it wasn't too bad. He just went to P2, Alonso passed him, but he took it back real soon and he remained there, ultimately winning the race. He was also a bit unhappy that Max stole the fastest lap from him because he had it, and there was some communications with the team about whether he was going to keep it or whether they should push, or anyways, in all of that it got lost, and Verstappen maybe decided not to hear something and decided to push for fastest lap anyway, and took it to a surprised Perez. But still, a P1 to Perez, putting him firmly in second place in the championship. No one else really close, and a great race for him. Fernando Alonso. Okay, so he went into first for a bit, having started out in P2 after qualifying. And then Perez passed him back. Then he got a 5-second penalty for being out of position on the starting grid. He was very lucky though. The safety car that came later saved him. He was able to serve that penalty when pit stops were quicker and shorter, and he managed not to lose a grid position serving that penalty, 5 seconds. He then stayed in P2 until getting passed way later by Max, ending in P3 for his 100th podium and second podium for this season. And then, of course, there was the whole silliness around the second penalty that moved him temporarily to P4, and then George got it, and then it was reversed and overturned, and then Alonso got P3 back, which felt more right, and it was a lot of silliness, and I think the FIA just has to kind of look at their process. They can't be issuing an additional penalty around serving a 5-second penalty during the race improperly, but not until like after the end of the race, giving the driver and the team no time to react. I think Alonso was just taking care of his car, being firmly in his position, not under threat from those behind too much, and if he knew he had to make a 10-second gap, that, you know, knowing that penalty was coming, he would have done it. I really believe he could have pulled a 10-second gap. And so slamming that penalty after the race and after the podium celebrations was just not cool. And I think that won't happen again. I think everyone's taking it seriously, that we don't want that kind of thing to happen. Carlos Sainz keeps his position in the championship as well. Not too many changes up front as we're seeing. Sainz had a decent race, finishing P6, in spite of both Ferraris pitting just before the safety car. So they lost position relative to the other people around them, but still P6 is not bad. They're knowing that they have a lot to fix in the car. It's just not able to catch up to Aston Martin. And it's actually struggling even with Mercedes a little bit. Lewis Hamilton also stays 5th in the championship. He had an okay race, as good as it could be given the Mercedes performance this year so far, coming in P5 at the end of the race behind Russell, but staying ahead of him in the championship. Lance Stroll moves down in the championship because he had to not finish the race. He had to stop. His car was overheating, and they told him he had to just pull over where you are, and so he was a DNF, unfortunately, this time. He was also the cause of the safety car that set back the Ferraris. And George Russell moves up a little in the championship, having changed places with Stroll. He's very close at the heels of Hamilton, only 2 points behind in the championship. And I also didn't mention Hamilton and Sainz are actually tied. So there's more to resolve there, definitely, between Ferrari and Mercedes. Probably Lance Stroll will be moving up more over time, because if his car is anything like Alonso's, he has the potential to really be performing well against the others near the front. So Russell, he thought he would get ahead of Alonso after Alonso served his 5-second penalty, because he was working really hard to stay within that 5 seconds of Alonso. I mean, really pushing to the max, whereas Alonso wasn't necessarily pushing to the max to be there. However, the safety car changed all that, and it allowed Alonso to, like we mentioned, get his 5-second penalty in without losing his spot. So Russell remained behind and ended up finishing P4 in the end, even after all the taking it away and giving it back, and yeah, P4 for Russell at the end. Okay, Valtteri Bottas. He moves down by virtue of having some technical difficulty, which slowed him down all the way to the back of the grid. He ended up in P18, like basically last before the DNF folks. So that definitely took him down in the championship, getting no points this time, but their car is doing well, and look forward to him getting more points in the future. Pierre Gasly, now we're having people move down here in the championship level because some people are popping up who had misfortune in race 1, and we'll get to those. I'm just going in the order of the race 1 there, the from side. So Pierre Gasly did a good drive, really good drive, really. He was happy with it. It landed him in P9, so points again, and he was right behind his teammate Ocon. Alex Albon unfortunately moves down. He had a brake system failure and had to DNF. So no additional points this week, leaving him with his 1 point that he got last week and moving him down again below people who got points and, from 0 that they had last time. Yuki Tsunoda, unfortunately, off of our point scoring list. Although not a bad performance at all, he's actually outperforming the car that he's in, scoring 11th place both times in the first race and the second race. And if you caught that battle at the end, it was epic. It was between Yuki and Kevin Magnussen, and Kevin passed him on the last lap. Like, it was just neck and neck. It was great battling, and Yuki was rightly so frustrated at the end. He almost had his first point, but Kevin took that instead. Logan Sargent also leaves our list. He had 0, he kept 0. He finished in 16th and maintained no points rating, and so drops off of our tracking list here. Though, you know, by no means a bad drive. He's doing very well, and I love how he has a plan. He says, yeah, I'm here to, you know, start out slow and then just really get the, you know, feel for everything and then increase the pace later. And he's following his plan. Every time the car isn't failing, he's doing very well on his plans. So we'll expect a lot more from him in the future. Yep, so Kevin Magnussen moves into the points from 0 points last week, so he stays on our grid here of people with points by virtue of passing Yuki on that last lap after that epic battle. He was the one who came out on top. Very happy, I'm sure, and it was an excellent drive. First point for him and first point for his team, ending in P10 there. So he stays on our list. Okay, so not too much surprise there. Charles Leclerc makes his way back onto higher places in the list, having been at the back after race 1 when he had to not finish. So he's in 8th place in the championship. He landed in P7. He had to start with a 10 grid penalty because they've already went through power units from the issues that he had in the first race. So reliability is really, you know, top of his mind because he can put out the performance when he has the car. And he's fought his way all the way back up to P7 in spite of the Ferraris pitting just before the safety car and losing out a bit on that compared to the others around them. So yeah, definitely we'll see more movement up from Charles after his sadly poor start in race 1. And finally, Esteban Ocon makes his way, again, just like Charles, he had a DNF last time, makes his way back into P8, so that was a great position for him. Did well in the car. That was pretty much everything they could have gotten from the car, so very happy with P8 and P9. And he secures 10th place in the championship with 4 points. So yeah, that is our standings after race 2 and all the moves that have happened and why. I noticed like a sore thumb that we haven't even mentioned the McLaren drivers, and yeah, I'm feeling super sad for them. Let's move on to the teams. All right, let's do the teams. The Constructor Championship standings. As always, we've got our positions, and we'll be comparing race 1 on the left with race 2 on the right. Here's the team standings from last time, and here is where all the teams stand after race 2. And of course, everyone's points. All right, so Red Bull's very happy. They are so strong. They're just way ahead of everyone else. They've got twice the points as the next best team, so they're very comfortable in first. Aston Martin holding on to second, even though Lance Stroll did not finish one of his races. So very, very strong from Aston. They are ecstatic. Mercedes, in spite of all the complaining and how unhappy they are, because they know they can do so much better and they've put so much effort into refining the concept that they have, they are holding their own due to various issues that Ferrari is having. They stay ahead of Ferrari, although they are not able to catch Aston Martin on pace. So it's only through Lance Stroll's injured wrists and DNF that they're even as close as they are. to Aston Martin. Ferrari staying in fourth place. Not too many changes in front of grid, and we're probably going to see this through most of the season. People will settle into their spots. But yeah, just as a quick review of team standings, Ferrari having reliability issues, having gone through a lot of power units for Charles Leclerc. So already race 2 taking a 10 grid penalty for equipment is kind of scary. Charles, of course, very frustrated again. I hoped that would be over last season, but they still have to win through on that. They haven't made any strategy blunders yet. Pitting before a safety car is simply bad luck, not a strategy blunder. So they maintain fourth place pretty well. Okay, so Alfa Romeo and Alpine actually switched places. We had different drivers experiencing problems versus not finishing from one week to the next. So they're very close to each other there still. I know the points are double, but 4 points is something that's very early days. So they've switched for now. We will see how that plays out. Williams moves down a bit, but I think only because Haas has performed better than expected, and actually they're tied. So that's just a sideways move there. Haas actually put points on the grid for the first time. AlphaTauri, again, doing well for what they can do. Yuki performing extremely well, but just out of reach of the points. So they got passed by the one car that actually got into points this week, which is Haas. They moved from 0 points to 1 point. That got them up. And then poor McLaren. Piastri got squeezed early on by Gasly. Got some damage on his front wing, so he had to go in, pit, get his wing replaced, and that set him near the back for the rest of the race. So he ended in P15, no points there. Lando lost his front wing, also from pieces flying from Oscar's car, from his teammate's wing. Pieces hit his car, and Lando also picked up damage, so also had a slower car and had to get the nose replaced. Also ending, actually I have this wrong, they can't both be in P15, but yeah, that is so painful for the McLarens. That was just an accident. They really haven't been able to show us at all what their car can do. So definitely see them moving into points very soon, as soon as their streak of bad luck fades away. All right, that's the moves for this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you did and you have friends who are F1 fans, please share and like, and see you on the next one. I can't believe we have to wait 2 weeks for the next race. Bye.